Ready?
Ready.
Let's go. Hi, it's Todd of Todd's Workshop and Todd Cutler here. And today we're going to do one of those burning questions people have been asking about for ages. Is a speed trial between a proper longbow. We've got Joe Gibbs here, warbow archer and, well, warbow bowyer. He can shoot an extraordinary 200 pounds. Today he's just doing 160. I'm on a windlass crossbow, 860 pounds in draw weight, and we'll just have a look at the difference in speed between shooting. We'll start our time trial as if we're two bodies of archers ready to start shooting each other. So I will span my bow and have that ready. Doesn't take Joe long to get ready. And here we go. Ready?
Ready.
Let's go.
Finish.
Yeah. Well, there's the thing, eh? Let's go fetch him. And you got another one straight in the centre. Quite clearly, the longbow, Joe's longbow, outshot me massively. So I didn't even manage to get a second bolt off. So the obvious thing is, on the surface, the crossbow is a completely useless weapon compared to the longbow. But a windlass crossbow similar to this, either this or a sinew prod or a U-prod, they were used for hundreds of years, at least 200 years. So what's going on? I mean, what were your observations of that, Joe, basically?
Took you obviously quite a while to span it. You know, after a bit of training, that you know I could do it quite happily. Whereas the longbow takes a fair few years to build up the strength and technique. And just to be accurate with a longbow takes a long time.
And you were accurate.
Yeah, so
depressingly so. Yeah, I think that's very true. I mean, I haven't even bothered drawing your bow. I mean, I haven't even picked it up. I mean, there's just no point. Whereas I have given you the windlass bow to shoot, and you can shoot it quite comfortably, which is very interesting in its own right. Because I mean, you know, sort of the bands of crossbow archers were very, very, very well paid. I think better paid than longbow archers.
right, okay.
So it's kind of there's a big mystery there, because if it's so easy to use, really what's going on? I mean, one of the things is, you know, your bow is essentially a cheap item, and that is essentially an expensive item. It's the same in industry now. If you've got expensive equipment, you charge a lot for the time, even if the job is very easy.
Yeah, that's true.
I suppose those guys were pretty proficient soldiers as well. You know, they were well kitted out in armour as well. I think what's very frustrating for me with this, that you don't have, you can shoot, you just pick it up and shoot it. I mean, it's just utterly painless in that sense. Whereas I have to be really careful to get ready for the next shot, because when I have to unwind my windlass fully, you have to lay it down carefully on the ground so it doesn't tangle up for the next shot, and still you get the ropes around the trigger sometimes, and you know, it's just. I shoot it reasonably regularly, but not again and again. You know, I'm not drilling for it.
Yeah, I suppose they would have done that, and they're people spanning them for them, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean that's a very good point.
You could have got twice the amount of bolts off, probably.
Yes, I could. So you hand the windlass to somebody, and while you're shooting, they're getting it ready for the next. So yeah, that was often done behind a purvey's mobile shield. But if I double my shots, you're still twice as fast as I am. I mean, I didn't even get two off, you know, and I was ready to go on the first one.
Right. True.
So yeah, that is interesting. But I suppose it comes down to the social structure of England as well, isn't it? Because every guy had to shoot a bow.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
And so every guy can shoot, maybe not like you can shoot, but they can shoot.
Shoot a decent bow still, yeah.
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 And that wasn't possible on the continent to field those armies. You need to have specialist troops for that. And if the best you've got is a crossbow, because you can't field 2,000 longbowmen, then it's a crossbow you use.
Yeah.
So, I mean, tell me about the training. I mean, how long, how hard, how many, how
So-
much?
So basically I've been shooting heavy type bows for 16, 17 years. So I started when I was quite young. About sort of 14, 15 I started.
Started on the heavier bows, as in,
Yeah.
obviously not on the first one, but
No,
quickly
sort of
into it? Or?
£70 plus.
Really?
Yeah. And then and slowly worked up from there. I made my own bows, so I was able. So it wasn't too expensive for me to work up because I could make my own kit. So
Yeah.
it's just a cheap way of doing it. And I shoot 2-3 times a week, so maybe 100 arrows a week.
Go on then, and how often do you get the 200 out?
Maybe only sort of every 2 weeks or something. Just otherwise, I don't want to knacker myself.
Yeah.
You need a bit of time for your body to recover because it's a serious weight.
Yeah. I only basically, well, I didn't shoot 2, but I loaded 2. I wouldn't want to do that for half an hour. I mean, I couldn't do that for half an hour,
Yeah.
what I was doing there. I couldn't do it.
Okay, yeah.
Now, I know that they're going to be fitter and that's what they're geared
Yeah.
up for. But, I mean, as you stand now, with a £160 bow, shooting, let's just say 4 or 5 shafts in a minute,
Yeah.
how long do you think you could keep that up?
Probably not that long. I could get the sort of 2 sheaves off. As for shooting after that, I think I'd probably be a bit knackered for constant shooting. If I had, just a bit of a break, just took my time about it, maybe a few more. But after the 2 sheaves, I'd probably be ready to shut my bow down and fight anyway.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so I mean, there's kind of, with battles like Agincourt or Crécy or whatever, you know that the engagement was several hours long.
Yeah.
And so you've got some sort of vision of
Exactly,
the
yeah.
archer just for several hours, just pumping them out,
Yeah.
but just not possible now.
no, I don't think I want to spray all my arrows out in one go anyway. I'd probably take my time about it and choose my shots, to be honest.
Yeah.
Well, it takes a lot of control, so it's not just pulling, the action of pulling a bow, it's when you release, because your body's under a hell of a lot of compression, and then when you let go of that string, your body wants to release it, so you have to control that bow arm from stop it doing this or this. And
So, I mean, do you concentrate on your technique, or do you just...
no, I think
sort
it just comes naturally, so your body does what it has to do to pull the bow. And once you've been doing it for so long,
Yeah.
you don't have to concentrate on pulling the bow or anything. It's all natural. Bang, job done.
No sort of aiming, no gap aiming, or...
No, it's
Any of
it's
that, it's
all
just all
instinctive.
Yeah.
So I'm just looking at the target, and your arm knows where it's got to go to.
Yeah, but
to
that's,
find that.
that's shooting 3 times a week, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
In medieval England, it was a requirement, from being quite a small boy, for every man in the land to learn how to shoot a bow. So if you take, let's say, a 14-year-old lad, and you try to work him up to the war bows, how often would he have to shoot, and how long would it take to sort of do the thing safely? Because obviously you can injure yourself by overgoing it.
I would say to get him up to £100 would probably take probably a year, because if he's not done much before, it take quite a while for everything to start to build and stuff. But I would, £100 should be pretty achievable. It's achievable for everyone. £100. You should be able to shoot £100, no problem. And then you should be able to. And then the heavier you get, you just got to take their time, really. I would say within 5 years he should be able to be shooting a decent weight, £150. And then, so it's not necessarily the strength that makes you a good archer. It's being able to hit stuff. If you can shoot a £150 bow, but you're spraying arrows everywhere, what's the point?
Yeah.
You might as well shoot a £100 bow and shoot and hit what you're shooting at.
But the other thing that I found very interesting was, as I said before, I've been shooting for a long time, but not heavy bows, and I've been very interested in war bows, and I thought, well, I want to learn how to shoot. And there was a lady came into my shop one day carrying a bow, and it was quite obviously a significant bow, and it turned out to be £80, but she was like 5'2", small lady. And I asked her how she could draw that, because I thought, it's like, no way, I can't pull that. And she showed me how to do it. Showed me sort of a different technique to the modern sort of target archery that I'd been shooting before. And that I found enormously interesting. So we then went down the range and I shot it. And I shot it by using a different technique, and I shot it relatively comfortably.
Yeah.
And that was an absolute eye-opener for me, that the technique is different.
It's completely different technique. So you want to be using a lot of your back muscles. So it's not, you're not just pulling it with your arms,
Yeah.
because your arms, you're not going to do it with just your
Not
arms.
enough.
So you need to engage all your back muscles in it, and as much as you can, just to get that bow back. Really, it's technique and strength.
Yeah,
you need,
that combination.
yeah, you need the combination to be able to do it.
Mm.
Yeah. So in the, especially like the last 10 years, the people who shoot heavy bows, the average has gone up. So 10 years ago, you know, if someone said, "Oh, I'm shooting 100 pounds," everyone would be like, "Whoa, 100 pounds," you know. But now it's like the average has gone up to 125, 130 pounds.
Yeah.
Is the norm. So I feel in another 10 years, it would be higher.
Yeah.
But you know, medieval times, it'd been going on for hundreds of years. So
Yeah. Well, and every village like this one
Yeah.
has got a butts.
Yeah.
You know, there's always somewhere you can go and shoot and hang out with your mates. And,
exactly. So when you're out
Yeah.
shooting with your mates, you go, "Oh, you can have a go at my
Yeah.
bow," and such
Yeah.
and such. You go, "Oh, let's have a go at your one, see if I can pull it." You know.
Well, that's it. I suppose when you've got a whole culture built on the bow,
Mm.
you know, men like to boast. I don't suppose that's ever changed. And,
That's it.
you know, and you are going to be having a go and trying to get yourself
Course you
bigger
are,
and better
yeah.
than the bloke next door. You know?
Exactly. So, you know, people always ask me if they can have a go at my boat. You know, and some people pull it. You know, I'm not saying I'm the only one out there that does it, because I'm not.
Yeah.
There's guys out there who can shoot 160-pound bows as well. Not many, but there's a few. You know, and I've helped them along their way, helped them train up and such and such.
So, do you do any training, any weight training, sort of with a bow in mind, that doesn't involve a bow?
I don't have a physical job, so I do a small amount of weights just at home, just to keep in shape. But there's nothing in a gym that represents a bow. You cannot. There's nothing will help you pull a bow. If you want to shoot a bow, shoot a bow. That's it. Full stop.
Yeah.
There's no point going down the gym thinking, "Oh, if I can bench press, you know, such and such, I'll be at." No, rubbish. If you want to shoot a bow, get out there and shoot a bow.
Yeah.
That's it.
The
End
bow
of.
is your gym.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You don't need anything else.
I think there were two very notable things actually about that trial that we've just done, speed trial. Was one, of course, is that you're out shooting me shot for shot,
Yeah.
quite clearly, many times over. The other thing that is notable is that your arrows are going through the boss and sticking out the other side. The bolts that I was shooting, sometimes they come out the back, sometimes they don't. So just on that very easy thing there, you can say that your bow is more powerful than mine. Mine has got this fantastic headline number of 860 pounds. Yours is a rubbish 160 pounds. You know, you're 700 pounds off. So what's going on? And that's, you know, it's just a really simple thing, is that when you draw your bow, you're accelerating the arrow over what, 25, 26?
Yeah, so you've got roughly
7
a
inches.
6-inch brace height, and then it's drawn back to 30. So yeah,
So about 24
Yeah.
inches. So you're getting your energy into that arrow, pushing it for 24 inches.
Yeah.
I'm pushing it for 6 inches, 6.5 inches. So a quarter of what you've got.
Yeah.
And so I've got a massive headline number, but the efficiency of this is absolutely appalling. But that's what's curious, because it was true now and it's true back then.
Yeah.
If the efficiency is so bad, and actually this is delivering less power than yours is, you know, why are they using it? And I think there are advantages, because one thing to remember is this style of windlass bow is called an English windlass. So the English were not just about longbows. You know, they use crossbows as well, and these are great for sieges. If you're up on the battlements there, or if I'm on the battlements and you want to shoot me, you have to step out of your cover. You have to
Expose a lot of
expose,
of
you have
my
to
body,
draw
yeah.
because you can't step
Yeah.
out drawn. And that takes time, where you've got a few guys on the castle having a pop back at you.
Yeah.
Whereas I can be from a hide shooting through a hole that big. It's good for that sort of sniping type thing, that long-term warfare, where the rate of shooting is not quite so important. So that's where they're very useful in sieges, and you see them quite a lot in naval warfare as well.
Oh, okay.
Crossbows are handy for that. I think probably again because, you know, if you imagine with all the rigging and the low decks and everything else, a longbow's a difficult thing to use.
It can be a clumsy weapon in a confined space.
Yeah.
That you keep hitting the nocks and tips and everything. With a crossbow, it's a lot easier.
Yeah, and I mean the thing is as well, I don't know if you're the same as me, but when I shoot a longbow, even if I've got a couple of twigs or something above my
Yeah.
head,
Oh.
your mind is not on what you're shooting. You're sort of like, you're halfway up there trying to, and it must be hell if you've got rigging and stuff like that around you.
It's almost impossible. Like you say, if I come up to draw and even just the smallest twig touches the top of the limb, you can feel it, it puts you off.
Yeah.
If you loose, it sounds stupid, but if you loose and your limb hits the smallest twig going, it upsets the shot. So, you don't want it, you don't want anything near you, you know.
Let alone a, big
Yeah.
rigging rope
Yeah,
or something like that.
exactly, yeah.
And on the surface, they are far outclassed by the longbow. I mean, you can't deny that. But they are for different purposes, really. And they're either because you can't field an army full of longbows because you haven't got the guys to do it, or otherwise the style of warfare, be it naval or siege, actually can give the crossbow an advantage, even though it can't do the rate of shooting. Because again, one of the comments I get often is, oh, that's really slow, that's really useless, they'd never have used that. And it's like, look in the pictures, they did all the time for hundreds of years. So it was a very effective weapon, but if it was you and me in a field 100 yards apart, I know where I put my money.
Yeah, so would I.
Thanks. Joe and I also thought it'd be interesting to have a look at the accuracy of the two weapons. What I would say, Joe shoots 3 times a week and is a world-class archer. I shoot once or twice a month, a few shots, so I'm not. But let's just have a look as a relatively competent crossbowman against a very excellent longbowman, what we can both do at 25 metres. Now, as you can see here, this is my group, right of centre, Joe's group left of centre. But actually, in terms of group size, they're fairly comparable. And on the basis that Joe shoots 2 to 3 times a week and I shoot off a couple of bolts every few weeks, really it just shows that a crossbow is an easier weapon to aim. And so if you're experienced in it, you're quite clearly going to get better grouping than a longbow guy. I must say, I was a bit worried you were going to completely blow me out the water, and I'm quite thankful that you didn't. And as it came out, the two groupings were, we both shot a little off, but the two groupings were about the same size.
Yeah, not far off. Well, the crossbow is obviously you can pick one up and train to use it quite quickly. Obviously, it's got less variables than the longbow.
Yeah.
So a longbow is you got this arm, and you're loose. So that's why.
Length of draw as well.
Yeah, length of draw. That's why it takes so many years to be able to shoot it accurately.
It was a nice thing to see how the two compare. And I think it's clear that the crossbow is inherently a more accurate weapon because of the lower number of variables involved.
Yeah.
And a comparison that is often made in comments that I get is that the crossbow is the sniper rifle of medieval times. And actually I think there's probably some truth in that because you can lay in wait for your target.
Yeah.
And then when you do shoot, you're inherently pretty accurate.
Yeah.
And so there's a good chance you're hitting the target. So I think it's actually a fairly valid comparison, certainly for siege warfare, that it is a bit like the sniper rifle.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
But yeah.
But
But Joe, thank you once again. It's been great having you here.
Thank you. I
And,
enjoyed it. It was good.
Good. And hopefully we'll go again.
Yeah, definitely.
Cheers.